she birthed in 1874 with the introduction of her book, Isis Unveiled, 2 books. And then she begins to be the mother of the rebirth of Theosophy. So a lot of people associate it with her, but she did not, it was not original. She drew it from the ancient wisdom. Going back to Dr. Kuhn. Dr. Kuhn's major work, that's this book right here of about 500 pages. Dr. Kuhn's major work, The Lost Light, which he printed in 1940, an exposition of the allegories, the parables, and the personages of biblical Christianity as having been extant in pre-Christian paganism under different forms and names, was deemed by the chair, the man of philosophy department of Ohio University, to be the greatest theological work to have occurred in the English language. That's this book right here. Wow. And I would have to agree, because Dr. Kuhn has influenced me more probably in the last 20 years than any writer I've ever read. And I admit, I tell everybody, he's hard to read. You have to read him with a dictionary because of his wording, probably because he was a linguist. So I want to read you a few things from this particular book. It says, the sun was the center of religious ideology because it was the center of all life. Religion was once organically constructed about a nucleus of profound teaching directly related to the phenomena of life. It was no detached scheme of emotionalism. It was an alignment of devotion and conduct in relation to knowledge of the elements and the facts of life itself. The central fact was the presence of a solar fragment, a spark of deity in the inner soul of every being, unintelligent below man. Intelligent for the first time in atum, A-T-U-M, / the man. The immortal soul was a beam from the eternal sun, a spark of divine fire, an irradiation of the essence of God's own being. This spark of cosmic intelligence was, as shown, the 7th emanation, crowning the elementary 6 and summing their powers all in itself. Now, if you heard that, he just mentioned the 7 days of creation. He mentioned the 7 seals of Revelation. He mentioned the 7 endocrine glands of the stick man. The 6th was the crowning glory of it. So you had the 7th was the crowning glory of the 6th, the elementary 6. Man, in whom this spark was for the first time made local in nature, was the crown and the summation of all precedent expressions. All lower kingdoms are in him. The three sub-mineral, the mineral, vegetable, animal, and the human thus far evolved. They are comprehended. That just sparked something in me. Let me look at this. Or see if I can read this passage. I might not can do this because it's very interesting to me that even though we have translations of the Bible that are dumbed down and have been parts missing and added to and taken away, it's still the golden nuggets are still here. It's still there. And that's because it has to be there, because it's the root, it's the summum bonum of the story. So even though the story has so much froth, it's hard to see the golden nuggets, but they're still here. And man is distinct from every other creation. And the reason it is because of the way it's worded. Genesis 1:26, where God made man, and then over in Genesis chapter 2, when it talks about the different kingdoms and the animal kingdoms, there's a distinct separation in man from animal. And most people don't know that because they think we are an animal evolved. and we're not. And that's so, but it's clear when you see it from the ancient Hebrew and through the code. You can see it. It's just so clear right there. There was a very keen distinction put on mankind. Not just man as the male species, but mankind as both male and female. All lower kingdoms are in him, the three sub-mineral, mineral, vegetable, and animal, and the human thus far evolved. And what Kuhn means by that is just simply the same thing as Carlos Sars says, that the man has not reached anywhere near mankind its potential. It's been lost and stuck. It has had extreme highs of that potential, and then they got waned down by religion and other different things. And that's been an up and down. And I think we are in a birth road, and my opinion is that we, it's not something I think, I know, that we have crossed the threshold. We are rising up in that new revelation or ancient understanding of who we are and what we are all about. And so that's what is exciting for me, to do this for us, that we would come to the place that the most important thing that we will ever know in life is ourself. And that's so difficult for us because we've been taught it's selfish, and we ignore major things that we need to know. And the ancient materials was about that. And then when it talks about things, it says life, that's what it's referring to. Because we aren't really living. We're going through motions many times and getting lost so many times in the fluff or the things that aren't really serving us. So they are comprehended in him in the constitution of the four lower vehicles, which make him the composite being he is. His physical form is from the earth, his emotional body is from the moon, his mind is from the race evolved on Venus, and his spiritual / soul from the sun. Wow. The sun spark was then the guiding intelligence, the king within him, within the man, within the human being. By his body and his senses, he was linked with the earth, with nature. By his mind, his soul, he was tied to the stars in the heavens. Head in heaven, body on earth was an Egyptian phrase. It was a constant saying. Head in heaven, body on earth. I am a child of the earth and the starry skies, but my race is of heaven alone, said the Orphic philosophies. By virtue of two lower creatures within him, he is a mortal being doomed to temporal extinction. By the higher two, he is constituted an immortal entity facing a future of endless glorification. Hallelujah. And what I hear him say in that is we have allowed the two lower kingdoms to dominate us. They're not there for domination, they're there for service. They become the slave. And therefore, when we go back in the ancient Greek and in the ancient Hebrew, we begin to see that the slaves that were always mentioned was the physical body, not the master. But yet the body's become the master. And most people see it that way. So let me go on with Kuhn here.
Get up and dance.
Yeah, but it makes you want to dance, don't it? Yes, it does. Hallelujah. I mean, yeah. And I say amen to that. The lower rose from the earth by the force of the expansion of powers elemental in the atom of matter, and was a product of natural evolution. The higher was the Lord from heaven, as Paul / Apollonius names it. And the union of the two in one organism gave to humanity a local habitation and a name, a form, and a character of cosmic stage for its activities. And this book just goes on like this forever. Let me read some more here, just a couple more things I wanted to read. It says, my mind to me a kingdom is, my mind to me a kingdom is. That's a phrase, that's just a phrase. And if one be bound faithful in the governance of that world of self, one will be made ruler over all things. That's pretty profound if you hear that. Again, that comes back to knowing yourself, knowing how you're made, knowing more about you. He says the framer made the creations 6 in number, and for the 7th he threw into the midst the fire of the sun. This was all ancient truth. Likewise, the 7th outgush of creative force threw the sun of intelligence into the midst of the 6 lower energies to become their head and their ruler. Hallelujah. That simply says to me, I haven't reached my potential. My lower 6, because they are greater in number, think they are the ruler of the house. They're not. The sun is the ruler of the house. This was the work of the Divine Fathers in planting the seminal seed of His fiery spiritual consciousness into the body of Mother Nature, and so closing her unfruitful womb and stopping her wastage to make her pregnant with the Christ child. I mean, you know, this is ancient wisdom from Egypt.
Yeah.
They understood the Christ child. They understood that it was an oil of energy that's released from up here in the sun area, in the head. But it serves the whole body. That Christ was an oil, and I'm saying it is a multiplicity of oils. It has to do with serotonin, melatonin, adrenal, and all of the other fluids that flow from this glandular structure of the physical body. But it's all controlled up here in the sun center, in the head. The knowledge that the fragment of the spiritual heart of the Son was implanted in the body of each Son of Man to be His soul and His God was the golden secret imparted by the Arephants in the mystery schools to their qualified pupils. It was regarded as such a priceless treasure that these secret brotherhoods were organized specifically to guard its esoteric inviolability. Now, why was that? The reason that was because the Catholic Church, Roman Church, almost 2,000 years ago, saw how to control humanity, how to control the masses. That was take this ancient wisdom from them, this ancient wisdom that was built off occultism, secret, not that it was secret and hid from people, but because the secret was it's in the people, and they don't know it. So because you don't know it, don't mean it's not true. The secret was in you, and how you understood that was through school, through teaching, through training, through observation. And those things were taken away from us completely. And anybody that has just a little bit of gust about learning can find that out. You can read the material, you can read the information, and you can easily see that so much of this great wisdom has been stolen and taken from us. Okay, I just wanted to kind of say that about the introduction of the things that we're talking about. And we're going to talk about our birth chart. So I wanted to go ahead and put you have the diagram there. I'll put this on the board. Okay. The cardinal cross, 2 major points, which are ancient. They're just ancient. They go back forever. That's always, that circle with that cross in the middle of it is always the beginning place. The reason they call it the cardinal is because of the 4 main points. Those 4 main points gives us the different ideologies that have to do with 4, like earth, fire, air, and water. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Yod, He, Vav, etc. Those things, that's the Lord. That's the material manifest of the Elohim. So what is the Lord? The Lord is that which is materially manifest. So how is the Lord then picked up and portrayed in mythology, in stories? By a character. That character then amplifies this These 4 points, i.e. the Lord. And so it's not that that character in the story is more special than the other characters. Come on in, guys. It hasn't got anything to do with that. That character in the story is not special. That character is showing you you're special. Now we've missed that. Yeah. And of course we missed that through the character of Jesus. That's why I said it really is not it's just not any problem to me that Jesus was real and literal or that Jesus wasn't. Because the stories, whether they are told of a character named Jesus, or they're told of a character named Horus, or they're told of a character named Buddha, or whatever, Krishna, whatever name that the character takes on, you have to remember what the character is representing. And this is what he's representing. He's representing the whole universe and these 4 major points. Those are beginning places. So that's why I do the circle and that's why I get the cross. But now let me take the cross and do a few things with the cross, and so that you can understand the major teachings. Now, March the 21st is Aries. That's the sign of Aries. That's the in the Egyptian, Hebrew mythologies. That's the ram or the lamb. That's where Abraham didn't sacrifice his son because of the ram in the bush. And that's the depth of that story is tremendous. It just gets deeper and deeper as far as what the story. But again, that story is coming back to this same thing right here. Turn this a little bit. Kirby, does that mess you up so that Phil and Brenda can see it better?
No, it's okay.
You got it?
It's all right.
That's okay? So, March the 21st. Now, here is what I want to say. Let me show you this is confusing for a lot of people. And that is, on some astrological charts, this will be over here. And instead of going this direction, in other words, rising this way, it will rise this way. And so, it's just exactly like if you take your little spreadsheet right here and you look at it from this side. If you flip it over and hold it up to the light and look at it from the back side, you'll see it's the same thing, but it's just in reverse. Yeah. So that's the only difference. It's the wheel is always the same, no matter how you look at it. But a lot of different astrologies will always make it over here. This being the east and this being the west. So I hope that's not confusing. That's something you can just kind of let ruminate, think about it, muse on it, and you'll begin to see. It doesn't matter when you see the charts separate or different. So it matters that you get the understanding or the idea. This is called the equinox. These are the major points. This one's the equinox. It goes all the way across. And the reason it's called that is because the days are equal. 12 hours of daytime, 12 hours of nighttime. That's set in stone. I mean, you just can't change.
This is right for us.
I'm sorry?
This is right for us because the sun comes up over there.
Yeah, this chart works better for me, even though I read it. In some books, I'll read it over here. And what I have to do in my mind, I just flip it. Yeah. Well, if I'm reading those books, it starts over here. So this is March the 21st. Every year, it don't matter. I mean, like I said, this is in stone. This never changes. It never will change. It's just simply the way it is. March the 21st, the sun and the night equal each other. September the same thing. This is September the 21st. And exactly the same thing happens again. That's why this line is called the equinox. It's from this line of the equinox is where we get the wobble or the wave, the sine wave. Okay? And then these two, this vertical up and down, this is June the 21st. And this down here is December the 21st. And these are where a lot of the ancient mythologies are told. All 4 of these points are where the mythologies are told. Like on this one, June the 21st, this is the longest day. This is the soul test. The soul being the sun. This is the shortest day. Again, the soul test. And a lot of the mythologies are born on this lower solstice, December the 21st to the 25th. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, Nordic philosophy, a lot of the Chinese, Japanese, Hindu, all of these philosophies have their major stories built down here. The Christian story got built down here on the Christ born in the manger, December the 25th. But that Christ, Jesus, in other words, was a representation again of the sun. So all of these points and these stories are about the sun and its journey. And you have to remember this sun, this spark, this energy, it's inside you. It's always been inside you. Actually, I can't remember if it's this book or another book that I had wow. It was discovered actually in it was discovered, I think, in 1932 by a scientist that in every cell of every individual is a spark of the sun. Actually, they found that it was a spark of light in every cell, that the degrees, the temperature of that spark inside the human body is between 2,000 and 3,000 degrees, exactly the same temperature as the sun. And that's just a medical history, that's a fact. They found that out in 1932. I had that story. I think the doctor's name was Dr. Creel. I'll maybe try to find that story and read you the story of this guy this afternoon so you can do some research. The thing I like about Kuhn is, buddy, he's big on validating his information. He'll show you where it comes from and where he gets the information. Okay, so this starts out basic astrology 101. Learning the cardinal cross and how it always fits. It begins to be the major #1 point. Now, we all fit here. And I realize it gets confusing because we aren't versed in basics on it. And so I'm going to use my chart, my dates, to give you an opportunity to find your dates. Let's see here. Now, see, I already started wrong with that line. I need to get these lines right so that you can. Once you see this, after you kind of grasp it, it will make a lot of sense. Okay. This is February the 19th. That's my birthday, February the 19th. This is also where Aquarius and Pisces cuff. And let me say this, when you're studying your birth chart, your birth sign, you will fall in 3 categories because each sign is divided into what's called 3 decans. Each decan has 10 degrees in it, each decan. So, for instance, if in Aquarius, I'm born here on the 19th, so I would have to look at my chart. If I'm looking at my astrological chart, I would have to look at my chart and I would draw from 5 degrees behind me and 5 degrees in front of me to get the 10. That's the energies that impress me or imprint me or brand me or give me my personality. They make up basically my traits, my habits, my likes, my dislikes, things like that, things that you have. So if you're born in the middle of a sign, say for instance, you're born right here in the middle of Pisces. And of course these dates, the middle of Pisces would be probably anywhere from around the 1st, let's see, February the 19th, then the 1st of March to about the 10th of March. So if your birthday falls somewhere in there, then this decan right here, decan or deacon, it's the same word, each deacon carries with it energies, different energies. I mean, all types of energies, because that's the position of the sun in your birth. Okay. Now, this is when I was born. That's important, but that's not my cross. Jesus said, take up your cross. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Take up your cross. Well, what is your cross? It's not a wooden log tied to your back. Your cross is your birth chart. That's your cross, because you have a chart, just like I have one. This right here would be my birth chart, my birth cross when I take it up. So if I flip my chart over, I would have to draw, and mine is a little more complicated. Anybody born on the cuff is just a little bit more complicated, because if you're born in the center of a, like if you're born anywhere from 1st or 2nd of the month to the 10th of the month, you're born in the center of the wheel. Now, is that confusing to everybody?
Yeah.
That's not confusing, because some astrology charts will start these on different dates. Most of them start around the 20th or 21st, according to the number of days in the month. Is that confusing? Is that okay? Everybody understands that? So, well, that was confusing for me up front to start with. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't figure out, well, March the 21st, you go and you've got about 9 or 10 days left in the month, and then you start the rest of that thing into April. So it looks like that would be called April instead of, March.
Maybe if you wrote all the months where they're
These are
supposed to
based
go,
on
it would help us.
30-day months.
On our chart.
Basically, yes, they are. Yes. Okay, so, all right, let's do that. Let's go ahead and put them down. March, April,
You didn't go whole 30 degrees or whatever.
So,
you're confused?
Yeah.
Okay. March, April the 21st, May 21st, July 21st, August 21st, September, October the 21st.
and so there's 10 degrees in a decan, is that what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, 10 degrees, always. And in each decan, the 21st, okay. In each decan, there are many different energies, many different characters, like Draco, or like, gosh, I can't even think of some of them. Some of them are listed in the book of Job. Those are decans. Pleiades, that's a decan. That's part of a sign. That's within a sign. Like, for instance, Job says, can you bind the sweet influence of Pleiades? Now hear that. The sweet influence of the Pleiades is going to be somewhere up here in this sign of Leo. Pleiades would be one of the decans in Leo, in the sign of the lion. And he's saying, can you bind that? In other words, do you even understand it? We don't. Well, that's going to influence you. So if I am drawing from part of Leo, because I am on the cuff. You see what I'm saying? This is me, I'm on the cuff. So part of my sign is going to draw from Leo, and part of it's going to draw from Virgo. So I'm going to draw from the last decan of Leo and the first decan of Virgo. Makes me more complicated. Or anybody who's born on the cuff. If you're not born on the cuff, then you'll draw from the influence of that sign, but you'll draw from the decan. Each sign has 3 decans, and each decan represents 10 degrees. And in each of those degrees, now for instance, let me show you something. In each one of these signs, there's actually 30 degrees. And that 30 degrees is divided into 3 sections of 10 each. And how they measure time, how they measure the precession of the equinox, in other words, the backward movement, because it appears to be moving backwards, how they measure it is by one of these degrees. And in time, it takes 72 years for the sun to move 1 degree. So if it moved 30 degrees, it would take it 2,160 years, which is called an age. Anywhere you look in Scripture when it talked about an age, that's what it was referring to. Like for instance, if we come out of the age of Taurus, the bull, you can figure approximately that was a 2,000-year interval of time. Then you come into the age of the ram, or the lamb, the time of what we call Judaism. Then we move from that age into the age of Pisces, which is called Christianity. Now we are in the age of Aquarius. Do you understand? Those are incremental 2,000-year periods of time. But it takes that 72 years to move that 1/10 of a degree. That's why we have no notice of this movement. We don't understand it. We don't know it. Because how many of you have lived 72 years? Just 1 or 2 of us.
We're getting close.
Oh, y'all. I'm 49, 59. So I'm not moving with it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm stuck. So can you hear that? I mean, that's just a little information. That will help you to understand. Because you see, this is how we get this concept of the idea of the golden age. Or if you look at Ezekiel and you look at the book of Daniel, when you see the king divided into those different sections, and Daniel said, oh, I saw the king and he was these different sections. Well, what Daniel was talking about was the movement of the astrological wheel, because when it goes into certain sections, then they call that the golden age, or they call it the silver age, or they call it the bronze age, or they call it the age of clay and steel, iron age. Now, in that 26,000 year approximate period of time, the energy of the sun is stronger, and therefore the enlightenment of the people grows stronger and stronger. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We have moved into we are in the birth throes of the golden age. Now the golden age lasts, for instance, if I were to take the golden age and I said it would last from this time around to this time, and then the silver age, it would last from this time around to this time, and then the bronze age, it would last from this time to about this time, and the iron age would only last a very short period of time. Some say between 600 and 800, 1,000 years, out of 26,000 years. So the mass majority of the time is the golden age. Now here, if y'all have never read Walter Cruton's book called The Lost Star, that's an old book. I think I've got it somewhere down here in this library. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. But it's an old book. It was written probably 14, maybe 16, 20 years ago. I'm not sure. He was a scientist and astrologer, and he's still doing tremendous work. Matter of fact, he's doing a seminar in California that Barbara Simons had actually called and asked Annie and I to go with her and Lyle next fall to this seminar that Walter Cruton's doing. Walter Cruton does this on the golden year, the golden age, and the lost star. In other words, the black star in the sky, Cyrus or Sirius. And so when you begin to see this, my conviction is that the reason the golden age is so long is that we become so ingrained and so embedded in it that it carries us through the silver age, into the bronze age, and right on through the iron age without becoming ignorant. But because of the less energy, guess what we do? We yield to the darkness, or to the weight of materiality. See, I do not think we're designed for that. I think we are designed as a spark of the sun, a spark of the divine, to carry ourselves continually. Now, does that mean that I move from what they call the wheel of karma? Could be, I don't know. But I believe it does get us to the point that we become the masters of self, period.
I guess that's the reason they say the golden age is 1,000 years.
Well, actually, the golden age would last about 12,000 years. Yeah, 12 to 13,000 years. Because you have to remember each section here, you know, this is such a phenomenal thing. Each section is happening every day on a 24-hour period of time. Each section is happening every year in a seasonal period of time. And each section is happening every great year on a 26,000 year period. And it's all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're experiencing all three of them again. And again, going back to last night, remember that 3, because that's the number of this year. 2019 equals 12, which is the zodiacal wheel. The 12 powers are the 12 energies of God. And you add that together, 1 plus 2 equals 3. 3 is the Hebrew Gimiel. That is the word. Actually, 3 and the Gimiel has more to do with kindness. Think about that. More to do with kindness. And so when we begin to see the 3 energies of light, life, and love, we have to realize that the heart of the nature of God is kindness. It is not criticism and judgment. That is not what God is. It's hard to, I find that hard to free myself from that attitude. Judgment is where you look at somebody and criticize them or condemn them, or they're this or they're that or whatever, you know. And we do it unconsciously. Why do we do that unconsciously? And I think a part of it, we're so ingrained. We've been so ingrained in this dark period of time. This period that hasn't served us as it could. It could have now. Because being born in Pisces or being a Piscean is not bad. There's not any bad here. There's different levels of energy. But you have to get the idea of your cross. To bear your cross would be to bear your energies there. To bear your own energy. So I'm going to highlight my cross, and you have to highlight yours. But I'm just going to highlight mine with the blue. I don't know if it'll show up very well. That's the blue, okay. My blue is blending in with this black. And so that's, here you go. Maybe this will help you to see it better. And I'm going to do this. All right, I'm highlighting this is my cross. When Jesus said, take up your cross, this is what Jesus is referring to. That's what the mythologies say. I can say Jesus like you say, oh, then that proves that you do believe in Jesus. I do believe in the story and the mythology. Again, I'm not hung up on the literalness of a historical character. I'm more interested in what's the character portraying to me. Why is the character in that story telling me whatever I am, you are? Why is that character telling me whatever I do, you can do? Why is that character in the story telling me this, the Father in me doing this is the Father and you can do the same? Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to discredit anybody who's so hung up on a historical, literal Jesus. More to get them to understand, what's the story about? If I miss what Jesus is about in this story, his life, I've missed the whole intent of the mythology. Y'all get that? You know, I'm passionate about that sometimes in some ways, but So this is my cross right here. This would be Lynn's cross, and you have to see what I have now.
The opposite. Me. When that's open.
You on your charge, if you want to write in your charge these mythologies and these stories, like for instance, March the 21st. That's the story of the lamb or the ram. Right? It's the story of Aries, A-R-I-E-S, Aries. This is the sign of Aries. And again, if you look at a chart that's got Aries on this side, that's okay. It's just looking at this one backwards. It's the same thing. It says the same. So this is Aries. The next chart, the next piece of the pie coming up would be Taurus. T-R-U-S, Taurus. And of course the next one coming up would be Gemini. And the next one coming up would be Cancer. So you just write these in so that we're on the same page. The next one coming up would be Leo. The next one coming up would be Virgo. The next one coming up, September the 21st, would be Libra. And then Scorpio. And then Sagittarius. And then Capricorn. And then Aquarius. And then Pisces. Okay? That's true anywhere, everywhere, no matter who you are, where you're at. And again, I think Kirby and I had discussed it. The Chinese astrological chart uses these same exact divisions, but some of their characters are different. You know, like they'll use a mouse, and they'll use a dragon. See, like in this chart that we were more familiar with, we won't have a dragon, we'll have Draco, or the serpent. The serpent, and the serpent and the dragon's the same thing. What a mythology is talking about a dragon, or a mythology that's talking about a serpent, they're talking about the same thing. Now for me, okay, now everybody's got that, right? So, I'm going to go back to this right here. The 4 divisions, they're always there, and they're always locked in. These 4 divisions, they're always there. The reason I use red and blue is because of, let me put my stick man over here. This will that's blue green. My blue looks black, don't it? Mm-hmm. But it is blue, according to the different ones I've got here. There's my stick man. Now, if you'll look, this is you'll see this everywhere. If you go to people's bathrooms, kitchens, or wherever, and look at the faucets, you'll see red and blue. What does that represent? Fire and water. That's normal. These colors are very common. If you're looking at chakras, these are the colors of the chakras. You know, red, you have red, orange, yellow. Let's see, red, orange, yellow, green, blue. I've got my green and blue wrong here. I'll get my green and blue right. Because it's, I'll show you in just a minute why with these green. Because the reason I wanted to do that, between those colors, between those different colors right there, between the, did I mess everybody up?
Yeah. What was those colors again there? It's red.
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple. That's the color. And from here, some people say from here you go into black light that takes you back into white light that starts the thing all over again. Most people aren't familiar with the idea of black light. That's the ing. That's the vast. You look out into space. The connection between the stars. They're black.
Okay.
What is that? That is the light that you can't see. It's light. That's God. Okay, that's the all. But if you look, all stories. When you start looking at mythologies and mythological stories, the stories characterize between the shoulders and the pelvic. The stories are always in here between the red and the blue. They're really characterized in that area and what happens in that. This is, if you wanted to look at this, you could say this is the flesh. This is the carnal nature. Not wrong, not bad, not wicked, not to destroy. Most people, they have an idea that we're supposed to destroy this. And the organs in between there. I think that's gross error. I think that the thing that we are to do is to redeem this, to resurrect this, to life this.
To balance
That's okay.
Well, that's what God did in the beginning. He gave it life.
Yeah, yeah. It's all life. It's all life. Now, the reason I use these colors. Again, this goes back to, I'm going to put me a pyramid right here. Okay, a red pyramid. That red represents fire. Blue-green represents water. Let's see here. Let me do it different so that you would. Okay.
What color did you make his head out of?
purple.
Purple?
About
The mine and yours really. coming out the way I want to on that.
Is the top of that thing supposed to be pointing at your birthday, or?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get to. These crosses, you have these pyramids. You have these two pyramids, these are colored always this way. I think I see what my problem is. They're always colored this way. This is what we would call the seal. Or what would you call it? The Star of David?
Yeah.
It's always those colors right there. And so this is what I'm trying to do with mine is, okay, I think I see how I'm messing up here. There we go. I had it right. It's just because it's kind of oblong. Okay. Now, the reason I did it that way is I want to explain that to you. The reason I did that. Fire is represented by red. Water is represented by blue or green, turquoise, water. So the day that my mother and father made love and introduced me through a seed, through the seed and the egg, introduced me, that's my matter. Matter is always symbolized by water. Material. See, anything on the earth, I don't care what it is, animal, plant, human, it doesn't matter what it is, birds, fish, it's symbolized by water. That's matter. That's anything material or matter. Weighty. Water's heavy. That's why that when you look at a pyramid of water, a pyramid of water is weighty. It'll always, this star always will pull down. That's why it's pointing to the place it pulls the strongest. Like fire is always a flame. If you watch the flame, it always goes up to a point. It's pulling to the energy that draws it the most. The fire is electric, and the water, the blue, is magnetic. It takes both electric and magnetic to make you work. That's the positive and negative. That's the male, female. That's the Hebrew story of the tree of knowledge, Ra and Tov. You can't get around it, you can't get past. Everybody has that function, period. I don't care who you are, you have that function. So you remember the Star of David, the Star of Solomon, the Seal of Solomon, the two pyramids, they intermingle. The one that's pointing up is red because it represents fire. The one pointing down is water because it represents material or the human body. Okay? So, on your birth chart, the reason I have my pyramid pointing up toward my father's seat, that was what gave me this physical body I've got. Now, this physical body was built by God in the womb of my mother. And here is a conundrum or a paradox. This is the entrance of the soul. But with the entrance of the soul came the spirit, because the soul / spirit is the mystery of all life. That's what I read to you from Alvin Boyd Kuhn so beautifully. The mystery of the soul. But let me say this, because there needs to be, to me, a lot of teaching on the distinction of the soul and the distinction of the spirit, because both have different functions. One's like male, one's like female. And to understand that, how many of you have you ever heard that the soul's feminine? Have you ever heard that? And that the spirit's masculine. See, that's so true. So that would say the woman's function is to give birth, to give life, to be kind, to nourish, to love without condition. Isn't that the story of a mother? That's just, that's just it in a nutshell. And the father is to be strong, to be supportive, to be directive, and to lead. Well, you have both of those in you as you. So a woman don't have to look to her husband to lead her, even though they have to come to, if they're in a co-relationship, they have to come to an equality of balance. Many times the lady should be taking the lead with her strong feminine leadership. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
To me, that's not confusing, but to most people, that's so confusing because we're in a society that's dumbed women down and exalted men for the last several thousand years from religious garbage.
Yeah.
You do not have female bishops. Have you ever noticed that? Did you not notice that the Roman Church is a male church dominant?
Yeah.
The only thing they have are nuns. None. You listen to that word.
Yeah.
What is their position? None. Do they have any authority? None. Can they do anything? None.
And they don't get none.
And they well said there. They don't get none. Okay. Gosh, they so deceived us. They so blinded us. Our mind thinks in the gear of their religious beliefs. And that's what we're doing. I'm saying this year is a year to become whole. To connect my life, and love. To begin to go forward in kindness and forgiveness. And quit judging that guy that pulled out in front of you. That's difficult. That's probably the first place we have to start to master.
Yeah, that's right. The nitty-gritty.
That, whatever its purpose was, whatever it was, whether it was, I don't know about you, but I have done things like that. Not often. I try to be a conscious driver, but I've done things like that sometimes when my mind just wasn't right there and should have been. And I pulled out and then have to get on the gas and get out of the way or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Judgment. Drop the judgment. Get rid of this Christian judgmental attitude we are ingrained with.
Yeah.
Be kind to one another. That's going to be our pursuit. Okay, so this represents my physical body. The building of the temple of my physical body. That's the soul dominant. But the soul is empowered by the Spirit. So what happens with the seed of my Father, I use this phraseology, and I hope people don't get offended, but to me it is a way to give you an idea. God hijacks a ride on the seed of your father to come into the womb of your mother to build something inside her womb that's foreign to her body, and in her womb, because it's foreign to her body is designed to automatically build a defense, and that defense is called the placenta, the wall in the womb. So it's actually done by the atoms in your body that are on defense because something foreign's come into the body. You know, they have learned now that the only way that they can get your body to receive an organ from another donor is they now can inject certain things into your body to put your body, these cells in your body that are defensive, they're called Satan, because their whole ordeal is to defend your house, your temple, your body from any foreign structure coming into it. You hear what I'm saying? And so when a foreign structure comes into it, immediately your body, if you prick your arm with something, a knife, and cut it deep, and you watch that, immediately it will swell, it will begin to get hot and red. Don't you know why? Because those defensive cells and atoms have run to that area of your body to heal it, to energize, to protect it, say, whoa, we've been invaded. Well, when that seed come into your mama's womb all of a sudden said, we are invaded, y'all. And it builds that wall in there, and that wall serves two purposes. It serves to build the structure of that entity, or the body of the woman will abort that thing. Now, it's designed that way. Or that thing automatically gets built so God can build the tabernacle in that place. I mean, you should listen to Bruce Lipton. He has an entire chapter in his book on the biology of the belief about this. It will blow your mind. It's the most phenomenal thing. But I see it in light of Scripture because I understand the Satan, and I realize that, yes, I am Satan in that I have the cells in my body that work as an immune system. And if I didn't have that and you didn't have that, we would really be in pitiful shape. And the reason people do get sick is because their Satan gets very weak. their immune system gets so weak. Whew, that's hard to say. People can't understand that. They think I'm crazy. But I see it so clear. And I can take you all through Scripture and show you how that works. It works that way in your physical body. So when my father's seed, hijacked by the Spirit of God and the soul, the Spirit is the power, the soul is the information machine. The soul is like, the soul knows all that God knows because the soul has been inbred with the knowledge of God. That's why you can call to remembrance. You have it. We don't know we have. We've been told we ain't got nothing. Okay, now watch this. This is so beautiful. Well, they work in conjunction, cooperation, and they build you in the womb of your mom, and 9 months clicks off, and you just count them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, boom. 9 months comes along. 40 weeks. You know, again, going back to the number 40, it's all through Scripture. 40, 400, all through Scripture, speaking tremendous truths about these phenomenal stories. 40 weeks takes place, 9 months, and all of a sudden, guess what Mama does? Mama says, look, you've been in the garden long enough. You've gotten too rowdy in there. It's time for you to come out and flex your muscles, stand up, and be what you have been built to be. So what does Mama do? She pushes me out. What is the first thing now that has to come into me? Now then, I have to be baptized in the Holy Spirit. I have to be filled with the Spirit. What is that? That's the breath. First thing that happens when the baby comes out. That's the fire. Now then, it's not the fire wasn't there. It's not that the spark wasn't there. It was there building. But now you're baptized with that. Now you're energized with that. Now that's life living you.
Is that the reason they call that month
Wow.
Gemini, and they call it germination because of it?
Well, now that's Gemini is the signs of the twins. That just generally people who, because they're an air sign, generally they have 2 opinions.
Yeah.
It's just wear this way, not right or wrong. That's just the unique. That's referring to your right hand, left hand, your right leg, left leg,
Yeah.
your right brain, left brain.
But that is the month of germination.
Well, no, that's
Christ.
just the month that I was. Like for instance, when is your birthday, Phil? What's your birthday?
March 18th.
Your birthday is March the 18th.
Which is
So you're Pisces, right?
Yeah, right.
You're in the last decan of Pisces. You're right here.
Yeah.
You're right. Let's see. The decan's 1, 2, 3. March 18th. This is going to put you right about here, Phil. So you would go across. So see, you and I are going to carry some similarities, except you're full-blood Piscean, but you're on the last. You're on the last 10 degrees of that Piscean age, and that's going to bring you over here to the last part of Virgo. So actually, Virgo, the Virgin, lays on the line of Libra. If you look at Virgo in a chart that shows you all of the whole character, I'll give you some books that do it. Bullinger's book, Cease's book that Bullinger did his work off of. I have both of those books somewhere. I think they're here somewhere. Actually, in one or either both of those books, seems like in Bullinger's book, there's a fold-out chart that folds out into 4 pages that shows you the whole wheel and all of the decans and where they're at in each section of them. But the Virgin lays over the line right here. Virgo, she's not even the most outstanding sign of this section. She's not. She's the last part of this section. But anyway, that would put you right there, pure Virgo, and right here, and then that would make you the last part of Gemini for your, you would be coming on the last 10 and the last part of Sagittarius. That would be where you are. Okay? Now somebody give me your birth date that's in a different section.
June 6th.
What? June the 6th is going to put Annie right here. I've got hers all. So she's going to be, June 6th makes her pure Gemini, makes her pure Sagittarius, it makes her pure Piscean, and it makes her pure Virgo. She draws the strength of it.
Wait a minute, where would I be in Pisces?
You're going to be right here in the middle of Pisces, right dead center in Pisces. You're going to be right dead center in Virgo. And that would be true with Sally, because Sally's, what are you?
The 10th.
You're the 10th. Kirby's the 7th.
8, I'm right between the two of them.
So we are inundated here. What's your?
Sagittarius, December 7th.
So you're December the 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, then you're going to be just exactly the opposite of Phil. You and Phil are going to be a lot alike. See, Phil's strengths will be your weaknesses. Your weaknesses are going to be Phil's strength. You see that? Y'all are going to be just the same thing. So your cross would be the same as Phil's.
I thought I was across from Gemini.
You are. You are. Right here. Right here is when you're when did you say?
Sagittarius.
You said December
7th.
December the what?
7th.
December the 7th.
Yeah.
Okay. That would make you right here, right in the, just right dead center in it. Instead of the middle, you'd be dead center, Sagittarius. That would put you dead center. You're just exactly the opposite of Annie. You and Annie. Your weakness is going to be Annie's strength. Annie's strengths is going to be your weaknesses.
Yeah, I know that.
And that's, well, you know what? That works true for everybody.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter where you are. I'm amazed that we're all stuck here in these same, we're all in, where are you, Beverly?
I'm right at the 21st of February.
You're the 21st. See there again?
Yeah.
Me and Beverly's going to be the same. So Beverly, you are right on the cuff. You're right on the cuff, just exactly like me. That's amazing. We all have pretty much fallen on the same.
And our husbands
Yeah.
just
exactly.
the same. Yeah.
And there's complimentary in that. So every one of you. Now, what I'm suggesting and really what I'm laying out this morning is, gosh, and it would take a lot of time. If you want to know your cross, then you look at it just like I'm looking at these. On mine you have let me put this right here. Fire, earth, air, and water. And it repeats again. Fire, earth, air, and water. And it repeats again. Fire, earth, air, and water. So those are the three divisions of the 12 of the 4 elements. Fire, earth, air, and water. So you, again, we talked about this some last night. You have the wheel is divided into 3 sections. This one would be the Aleph. Okay? And in the Aleph is the Elohim. And in the Elohim is the Lord. Jehovah. And I want you to see this. I want you to show you this. Aleph, that represents the sun. That's the number 1 in Hebrew. It represents the Elohim, the energy of the sun. And in the energy of the sun are the 4 lords. Look at these 4 lords. Fire, earth, air, and water. You can say carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. You could say Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Do you see what I'm saying? All right, then this over here, Aleph, the other one is Mem, which is water, and that would be fire, earth, air, and water again. water being dominant over this side. And then here, the last three would be the sheen, breath, or fire. And again, fire, earth, air, and water. And the dominant would be fire. So you see that? Now, this will help you, if you look at this and you'll put this on your chart, this will help you to understand the energies that you'll draw on. Like if I'm calling this Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. If you're right in the middle of that, then you draw strong from the Vav, and down here you'll draw strong from the Yod. You follow that? Because you see, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. You see how everything blends in? Everything comes back to the 12.
Show us how to get put our blue sign. The red is like I'm red from Gemini to Sagittarius. Where would my blue line be?
Okay, your blue line would be right here. Your father would have put the seed in your mom right here. You would have come dead center Virgo. Your mom and daddy were making love here. And then you germinated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, boom. And you was born 9.
Wait a minute, slow down.
Virgo, right in the center of Virgo.
Lines up there.
So your cross would be from Virgo over to the dead center of Pisces.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
That would be the same thing is true
Yes,
for Barbara. That'd be the same thing's true just about for all of you.
Yep.
Except for me and Beverly. Because see, me and Beverly are on the cuff. And here's what makes it more difficult and a little harder for someone born on the cuff. Is see, Beverly and I are going, like for instance, Annie, you're drawing strong from earth and you're drawing strong from water. You're drawing strong from air because that's your birth sign, and you're drawing strong from fire. That's your, so, you follow that? You're dead center, so that's yours. Beverly and I, because we're on the cuff, we're drawing from fire and earth and from air and water. Then we're drawing from earth and air and fire and water. You follow that? Did that complicate it for you? I mean, it is complicated. I admit that. It's complicated. No matter where you're at.
What does the star mean?
Which now? Say
The
that.
star up there?
Oh, that's the seal of Solomon. That's the Star of Solomon. The red is the pyramid that points up. Blue is the pyramid of water that points down.
Okay.
Fire and water.
Fire and water.
Okay.
It makes
Fire and
light.
water. That's the mixture right here. Fire and water. And it's always, you see, fire and water. And it always is between them. Fire and water. It's always between them. Fire and water. It's always that energy. God is fire, water's material, earth.
Okay, we got the sun over here.
Well, the sun moves. Sun's moving.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sun's constantly moving.
Okay.
I just
All
put
right,
the
I
sun
got
up
you, I
there,
got you.
and then
All right.
over here I'll go ahead and do the symbol for the moon because these are the sun and the moon.
And then it's Yod Hey Vav Hey Yod Hey Vav Hey Yod Hey Vav Hey all around.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. Then you can start to see where you are in those energetic places. Now, the ancient philosophies are all built on the 7 planets, and in the 7 planets are 2 concepts and ideas. Okay? And I'll just run over those real quickly, and we won't get into a whole lot of detail on them. we'll just break and then we'll come back this afternoon. Is that right? And then we'll kind of capsulize it this afternoon with this last part. Oh, okay, because let me just read you my notes right here. It says, everything in the material or the manifest world is produced by these two colors. These two colors, I'm referring to blue and red. That's why you see them everywhere. You see them on the police vehicles. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
You see them on the ambulances. Everywhere. You got the blue sky, and then you got that red sun. So everything in the material manifest world is produced between these two colors, the blue and the red. The red represents fire, the blue represents water, or the sky where the rainwater comes from. So that mixture of turquoise is between the green and the mixture of those.
Mm-hmm.
This is your heart chakra,
Yeah.
okay? And this is your throat chakra. Now, in Kuhn, when you're reading Kuhn, you're reading Soares, you're reading any of the ancient philosophies, the covenant is between the 10 fingers. That's your throat, that's your tongue. Your tongue produces seed. How's that? Words. The logos. The word.
Yeah.
Your tongue, does it grow? Absolutely. So why should it be wise to watch what you say? Because you might get what you say. And you might not want it.
Yeah.
Okay? This is material. This is the material manifest world. So the covenant's between your 10 fingers, that's the covenant of the tongue. And between your 10 toes, that's the covenant of circumcision, where your gonads are at, whether you're male or female. Circumcision is just a concept and an idea to control the seed or to control the birthing. That's all it's about. Okay? Both places produce a seed. And this is where the whole material world is manifest. So, where the four elements, the fire, earth, air, and the water, represent generation. In other words, what happens in the spring when the sun breaks out from either being below the dominance of darkness. You see this down here. Let me give you something. And you can, gosh, I don't know, we're so deceived by the Latin Vulgate, which the Catholics did that to us. There's a word in Latin called inverno. You ever heard of that word? Inverno, with a V. Inverno. Most of it hadn't. We have an English word that we drew from that and translated exactly backwards from what the word means. Actually, inverno means frigid, cold, winter. That's what the word inverno means. Do you know what the English did to that? They translated it just exactly the opposite to inferno with an F. And you know what they did? They took that was always symbolized and meant cold, winter, death, and symbolized it to mean fire. Inferno. You're going to burn forever in an inferno of God. It was a corruption of the Latin word inverno. Inverno meant winter, cold, freeze. And then we have summer. This is heaven. And this is hell. So if we really understood what hell was about, it's about cold, it's about winter, it's about death. It's about what is alive but appears to be dead. Right?
Yeah, true.
You see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's in this, from September the 21st, when the days begin to get shorter and shorter, it's like the sun has lost the battle. Now it's growing weaker and weaker until December the 21st, and then it takes a 3.5 day sabbatical called death. And guess what? All of a sudden the sun is born again, and the days start getting longer and longer and longer, and the sun's getting stronger and stronger and stronger until, boom, finally, March the 21st, spring has arrived. What happens when spring arrives? Then all of a sudden, we see generation. We begin to see the earth produce its fruit again. So that's called generation. And then water, which is called destruction. We go into that, what happens in the spring, what happens around the middle of March through April. April showers, water, boom, there you go. So water represents the destruction of the death, the resurrection of the life. Air is regeneration. Water is destruction. The same thing is true with the Hebrew aleph, which is right here. The aleph. And the aleph is, actually the aleph has these, it always comes with these two associated with it. Trying to write on this board with an ink pen. I'm so used to writing with an ink pen. Always when you hear the aleph, you hear life / death. And we get really tripped up and confused with that word death. There's another word that we can use that's not death, that's a much better word, and I can't think of it right at the moment, but thought I had it wrote down here. You could call it positive and negative, or without pulse. Without this pulse, without this is a pulsation. That's to inhale and to exhale. It's the same thing. Death is just not a good word because it doesn't associate what these truths are saying. Because we think of death as cessation. That don't ever happen. You can never not be. You're eternally living. You're eternally alive. So the four elements, fire, air, earth, and water, represent the four elements of the light energy. And those are broken down, many of those elements are broken down, and so you can see that by the passage that we talked about the other night in the book of Psalms chapter 19, where the heavens declare the glory of God. Alrighty, so we can just take a break here.
Yeah,
That be okay? Let's do that. Let's take a break right here, and you be thinking, and we'll come back. Maybe we'll start out with doing questions and answers, or see what we can find.
So your blue line and your red line is your cross.
Yes,
And
this
so
is my
that's the
cross.
cross we take up.
That's the
That's the cross.
energies we bear.
Jesus said, take up your cross, specific on your cross.
Everybody's is different.
Everybody's got one different. And I don't care if they're on the same day, it's different because your mom and father are different. Your mom provided one strand of the DNA, your father provided the other strand of your DNA. Not only that, your conditions. You're born in a chicken house, you're born in a hospital, total environment, everything. That's why you're never two alike. They be born on exactly the same day, exactly the same time. They don't have the same mom and the same daddy. Even though they could be identical twins. If they're identical twins, they enter at different times because they both don't come out exactly the same time, even though they may follow each other. And you have to remember, this is constantly moving.
Could you say that the red and the blue is the yoke and the burden?
I would, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when we understand it, it becomes easy.
If we apply the yoke and the burden to this mythology, this story, you'd realize your yoke are your burdens not bad.
Right.
That's why I said, my yoke is easy, my burden's light.
The understanding of it brings light.
Yeah, and so by that you could say your weakness can be your strength, and your strength can be your weakness. You see how that works?
Yeah.
You see, there's nothing, you just can't extract negative.
So
If you focus on just one portion of your sign, you'll get negative.
Yeah.
Always you'll get. But when you focus the balance of your cross, you see the whole thing, it'll always be good, great, serve you for your greater good and your greater being.
So when I'm weak in Gemini, I'm strong in Sagittarius,
Mhm.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
And you too.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the same with the Pisces and the inverted.
Lynn?
Yeah, never looked at it that way.
Lynn,
That's good.
when I took the signs and I says earth, air, fire, and water on one cross, on one line. Then I went to back and it's, anyway, they're opposite each other. On
Yep.
both sides, I get all four of them, on
Yeah.
both of them. And so I've got 8, but I actually have 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's yours the same with me. I have 8. I
Yeah.
draw from fire and earth, and I draw from air and water.
Yeah,
And over here, I draw from air and earth, and down here, I draw from fire and water. And you draw the exact same
Yeah.
thing. It's more complicated when you're on the cuff, about the cuff. And when you're that close, because you see some astrological charts starts Pisces on the 20th.
okay.
But even if you're within 3 or 4 days of it, see, you're still getting the decan of the sign before you. Because it moves in those increments of 10. And that's where you're drawing from that energy.